said you wanted to help me! Where are you?
Step into the dark with 20 terrifying horror movies you probably haven't seen but are actually terrifying. From pulse-pounding scares to twisted tales of terror, these chilling pics will crawl into your mind and stay there. Number 20, Grotesque. A young couple out on their first date are abruptly abducted and wake to find themselves bound in a stark subterranean chamber at the mercy of a refined yet sadistic doctor whose interest lies not in escape, but in a merciless and escalating game of pain. The captor alternates surgical detachment with callous torment, treating wounds while forcing the pair to endure mutilation, sexual assault, and degradation in a nightmare ritual that leaves no refuge. What sets this horror apart is its complete refusal of narrative relief. There's almost no backstory, only unrelenting agony, which induces a feeling of helplessness and moral collapse. The film is a brutal exploration of pure torment as designed as a visceral assault on the viewer. Number 19, Town Creek. When Evan's brother mysteriously returns after disappearing on a hunting trip, the two reunite for a violent mission deep in the rural heart of West Virginia. But what they find is far more sinister than expected. A secluded farm haunted by occult experiments, Nazi rituals, and something monstrous that refuses to die. As the brothers descend into blood-soaked catacombs and forgotten science, they uncover a horrifying truth buried beneath the land. Something ancient, something hungry, and something still alive. Surrounded by ritual symbols and undead forces, their journey becomes a desperate battle against an evil that history tried to erase. Directed by Joel Schumacher, Town Creek is a grim and relentless descent into the horrors of forgotten experiments and cursed bloodlines. Number 18, Spoonful of Sugar.
You have to be a good girl.
I can do that. I want more from you.
A graduate student named Millicent takes a semester off to babysit a severely allergic nonverbal boy named Johnny, only to find the job is a gateway into a surreal psychosexual nightmare. What starts as thesis work on childhood allergies turns into a tangled obsession. Millicent begins microdosing LSD, slipping into hallucinations while trying to replace Johnny's distant mother and flirt with his carpentry-obsessed father. As boundaries warp and darker secrets surface, the facade of the perfect family cracks and Millicent is drawn deeper into a vortex of manipulation, power, and twisted nurture. Director Mercedes Bryce Morgan crafts a hallucinogenic domestic horror that unsettles not with monsters, but with the distortion of the familiar. Number 17, Head Count.
You should come back with us. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
A weekend getaway among college friends in the desert turns into a nightmare when one of them reads an odd website chant and inadvertently summons a shape-shifting creature known as the Hisji. As the group splinters into paranoia and fear, the entity begins to mimic and replace them one by one, blurring the line between ally and monster in a terrifying game of identity and survival. Slated in sun-bleached isolation and creeping tension, the film transforms what should have been youthful celebration into a bleak combat of mirrors and uncertainty. Headcount is a chilling modern camp horror that thrives on the quiet terror of not knowing who is still you. Number 16, The Green Inferno.
What are they gonna do to us? We have to get out of here.
A driven college freshman named Justine joins a radical student activism group bound for the Amazon to live stream a protest against rainforest destruction, only to see their idealism crash, literally, into a nightmare scenario. Their plane goes down, the crew falls into a remote tribal territory, and what seemed like a good-intentioned rescue mission morphs into a merciless fight for survival amid cannibalistic rites. The film traps youthful arrogance and environmental advocacy in a grim spiral of violence and moral collapse, with every safe step into activism turning into a step into the unknown. Directed by Eli Roth, The Green Inferno is an unrelenting descent into jungle horror with no easy escape. Number 15. Begotten.
No names. No dialogue. No compromises.
A wordless black and white descent into mythic annihilation. A robed, bleeding god disembowels himself to birth a harsh, barren world, from which a figure drags himself across ash and emptiness, hunted by nomadic shadows in an unending cycle of death and renewal. The stark, distorted imagery creates an otherworldly ritual rather than a conventional plot, forcing viewers into a visceral confrontation with creation, decay, and the human condition. With its hauntingly degraded visuals and near-primitive atmosphere, this film transcends typical horror to become a cryptic journey into the void. Directed by Elias Merhige, Begotten stands as a radical, unsettling vision of spectacle and myth. Number 14. Splice.
She's become unstable.
This is the disaster everyone warns about. A new species set loose in the world.
Two ambitious genetic engineers, Clive and Elsa, push the boundaries of science by fusing human and animal DNA, only to unleash a rapidly evolving hybrid creature, Dren, whose growth and instincts spiral far beyond their control. As the project becomes a twisted parent-child nightmare, the scientists find themselves trapped in a corrupt lab and an isolated farmhouse, confronting violations of nature, ethics, and sanity. The film blends slick biotech thriller visuals with visceral body horror, and a mounting sense of unleashing something monstrous in the name of progress. Directed by Vincenzo Natali, Splice is a chilling push into the darkest possibilities of human curiosity. Number 13. Alpha.
Tu vois bien que t'es contagieuse. Il y a toujours quelque chose qui va pas avec toi. Avec vous deux!
When 13-year-old Alpha returns home from school sporting a fresh tattoo, she and her physician mother have no idea the mark signals the beginning of a devastating illness, one that turns victims into crumbling statues of marble, a mysterious plague preying on the margins of society. As Alpha grapples with quarantine, stigma, and an uncle dying of addiction and disease, her mother must fight institutional denial and deep-rooted prejudice to protect her daughter and the life she knows. The setting, drenched in the washed-out palette of 1980s Normandy, amplifies the rising dread of an invisible contagion with physical consequences. Directed by Julia Ducournau, this unsettling body horror drama probes identity, illness, and love in extremis. Number 12. Exhibit A.
I am not the only one with secrets.
Will you stop being frightened of me?
A seemingly typical British family decides to film the purchase of their dream home. But as financial pressures mount, the father's ambition spirals into paranoia and the daughter's camcorder becomes the only witness to a descent into horror. With each recording, the facade cracks. A father desperate for promotion, a mother worn thin, a daughter increasingly alienated behind the lens, and the home becomes their trap. Presented entirely as found footage, the film treats the camera not as a tool, but as a silent observer of disintegration, making the horror disturbingly intimate. Directed by Dom Rotheroe, Exhibit A is a quiet yet unrelenting unraveling of domestic catastrophe. Number 11. Morgan.
7, 6,
Don't be afraid.
5, 4, 3.
A corporate risk management specialist named Lee Weathers is dispatched to a remote bioengineering facility after a violent incident involving a mysterious humanoid subject known only as Morgan. The being, born only 5 years ago, yet deceptively human in form and intelligence, has already exceeded all expectations and now threatens everything. As Lee delves into the facility's secrets, she uncovers ethical collapse, a weaponized creation, and the terrifying question of whether Morgan is just a project or something with its own will. The tension builds in confined corridors and snow-drenched exterior landscapes as submission and control begin to unravel. Directed by Luke Scott, the film is a brittle clinical horror about creation, autonomy, and what it means to be human. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Lamb. A childless Icelandic farming couple discover a strange newborn on their land, a human sheep hybrid, and adopt it as their own, believing it to fill their grief-worn void. Life seems to be healing until the creature's origins begin to demand reckoning and the natural world reacts with ferocious clarity. Secrets hidden within the isolated farm begin to unravel, and the price of defying nature becomes chillingly apparent. I'll Take Your Dead.
Daddy, what's happening? Stop!
William earns a living by disposing of bodies for ruthless gangsters, raising his daughter Gloria in the shadow of his grim work. When a corpse's drop-off turns out to be a living woman, their secluded farm becomes a battleground of morality, survival, and supernatural dread. As outside forces close in, father-daughter bonds fracture under guilt and fear, and hidden truths seep into the gloom. The Frighteners.
I've seen a figure in a cape.
That was the Soul Collector.
Frank Bannister survived the car crash that killed his wife and is now conning grieving families by using his ability to communicate with ghosts. But when a real demonic spirit begins killing in his town, he becomes the only one who can stop it. Haunted by his own grief, Frank must face a darkness that laughs and haunts and rewrites the rules of life and death. The Lost.
I'm gone!
Felt like I had all this power all of a sudden.
Ray Pye, a charismatic but psychopathic teenager, murders 2 young women and evades justice for years. His chilling calm and charm allow him to slip through suspicion until Detective Charlie Schilling closes in. As Ray blankets his violence in obsession and manipulation, the tension mounts toward a confrontation where innocence dies and guilt reveals its face. Number 10. The Seasoning House.
I have just lost one of my best fucking men.
And I just lost the girl!
In the twilight of the Balkan conflict, a mute and deaf orphan named Angel is abducted and forced into servitude at a brutal brothel known as the Seasoning House, where kidnapped girls are drugged, exploited, and discarded by soldiers. While Angel toils behind the scenes, applying makeup, administering sedatives, and cleaning up horror, she secretly navigates the house's hidden crawl spaces, forging a bond with one of the captive girls and kindling a burning need for vengeance. As the militia leader who slaughtered her family returns, the walls of the house contract into a trap of twisted power, revenge, and survival. An Angel must find her voice in silence. Directed by Paul Hyatt, The Seasoning House is a merciless psychological horror that haunts with its stark realism. Number 9. Men Behind the Sun. In the final year of World War II, a group of Japanese youth conscripted into the Kwantung Army are dispatched to the infamous Secret Facility Unit 731, where Chinese and Russian prisoners are subjected to horrific experiments in the name of biological warfare. The boys witness freezing chambers, vivisections, gas killings, and plague tests in a sterile compound of cruelty. Slowly realizing the humanity they once took for granted has been stripped from them. With its unflinching depiction of historical atrocity and exploitation, the film becomes a brutal confrontation with the darkest corners of science and obedience. Directed by Tunfei Mu, the film is a raw and chilling record of human depravity. Number 8. Girl in a Box.
You will answer to Kay. You will address me as master and my wife as ma'am.
What is this?
It's a contract. It formalizes your status as my slave.
In 1977, 22-year-old Colleen Stan hits a ride that turns into a nightmare beyond imagining. She's abducted by a married couple and forced into total submission, kept in a coffin-sized box beneath their bed for years, allowed out only to be chained, silenced, and brainwashed into believing she belongs to them. Her captor crafts a twisted world of dominance, psychological manipulation, and isolation, erasing her identity piece by piece. But even in complete darkness, Colleen clings to fragments of hope, waiting for the moment to reclaim her life. Told with harrowing restraint and claustrophobic tension, the film doesn't sensationalize. It burrows deep into the psyche of survival. Directed by Stephen Kemp, Girl in the Box is a brutal real-life horror that never loosens its grip. Number 7. The Advent Calendar.
Calendrier, ça va te rendre dingue. Tu prends bien tes médocs contre tes hallucinations, tout ça?
A former dancer turned paraplegic, Ava spends her birthday thumbing through pain and memory until her friend Sophie gives her an antique wooden advent calendar. What seems like a curious holiday trinket soon reveals its grim rules. Open a door, eat the candy, and you're bound. And if you skip a day or discard it, you face murder incarnate. As the calendar's drawers unleash wishes, horrors, and desperate bargains, Ava finds herself inching back toward her old life, but at the cost of deadly consequences for those around her. Director Patrick Ridremont uses this gruesome be careful what you wish for premise to push a deceptively festive object into a vessel of dread and sacrifice. Number 6. Sputnik.
Мы рискуем жизнью человека. Героя Советского Союза.
Если герой, значит готов ко всему.
Бегите.
In the Soviet Union of 1983, 2 cosmonauts return from orbit, but only one survives. The fortunate one, Konstantin, is found by the authorities to be harboring something impossible. A parasitic organism living inside him without his conscious knowledge. Enter neurophysiologist Tatyana Klimova, summoned to a secluded military facility to probe what went wrong and what now lurks within the man. What begins as a clinical investigation morphs into a night-marred dance of symbiosis, horror, and moral collapse as the creature's secret emerges and the line between host and monster blurs. Sputnik is a bone-cold, Soviet-set sci-fi horror with its own alien shadow. Number 5. Titane. After surviving a brutal car crash as a child, Alexia is left with a titanium plate in her skull and a strange, growing fascination with machines. As an adult, she dances at motor shows, hiding a murderous impulse and an even more disturbing connection to the metal beneath her skin. When a killing spree forces her into hiding, she assumes the identity of a long-lost boy and is taken in by a grieving firefighter, leading to a bizarre and tender relationship forged in deception, grief, and transformation. Directed by Julia Ducournau, Titane is a haunting, body-shredding experience where gender, flesh, and machinery collide in a symphony of horror. Number 4. Possessor.
Pull me out.
In a stark, future-adjacent world, elite assassin Tasia Voss uses a high-tech brain implant to hijack other people's bodies and execute kills while her own physical self remains remote. When her latest assignment goes wrong, the layers between host and occupier collapse. Identity fractures, violence becomes personal, and the ghost of the controlled begins to fight back. As Tasia's home life, memory, and selfhood unravel, the mission mutates into a claustrophobic showdown of will and flesh. Directed by Brandon Cronenberg, with its sleek clinical aesthetic and merciless pounding of nerves, Possessor unsettles by rendering the horror inside the body visible and inescapable. Number 3. The House That Jack Built.
Me getting in this car with you, you might as well be a serial killer. Sorry, but you do kind of look like one.
Over a chilling 12-year span beginning in the late 70s, Jack, a sophisticated and emotionally detached serial killer, commits a series of meticulously orchestrated murders, treating each one as if it were a piece of art. The story unfolds in 5 brutal incidents, during which Jack methodically stalks, manipulates, and destroys his victims, all while recording his progress and constructing a symbolic house of corpses in his secret freezer. A strange companion named Verge, seemingly both listener and guide, threads through his monologues as Jack debates morality, creativity, and violence. Directed by Lars von Trier with its mix of philosophical dialogue and unflinching gore, the film becomes a descent into the mind of a killer who sees architecture and murder as one. Number 2. The Innocents. When 9-year-old Ida moves into a quiet apartment complex during a long Nordic summer, she discovers that some of the local children harbor abilities far beyond comprehension. Ben can move objects with his mind. Aisha can hear thoughts. And Ida's autistic sister Anna begins to awaken to something dark and powerful within herself. What begins as secret playtime quickly spirals into eerie acts of cruelty and psychic battles in the shadows, as the children's powers grow stronger and more volatile. While the adults remain oblivious, the line between innocent mischief and supernatural horror vanishes in broad daylight. Directed by Eskil Vogt, The Innocents is a slow-burning nightmare where childhood curiosity transforms into something deeply unsettling. Number 1. Angst.
Yeah?
Freshly released from prison, a nameless psychopath shackled more by his obsessions than his sentence re-enters society with one goal: to experience the fear reflected in his victim's eyes. He drifts through a banal cafe, stalks a taxi driver, then breaks into a rural home, and the thin boundary between predator and prey dissolves into quiet horror. With no soundtrack of redemption, the film drags us inside the killer's head. His childhood echoes, animal cruelty, his desire for control, and the awful business of disposing bodies. Shot through his eyes, every movement, every cough is suffused with dread. Directed by Gerald Cargill, Angst is raw, unflinching, and entirely complicit in the violence you cannot look away from. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Antichrist.
Ground is burning.
The ground is not burning.
I've just been having a lot of...
A grieving husband and wife retreat to a secluded cabin after the tragic death of their infant son, hoping to mend their shattered hearts. But nature, desire, and madness converge in a violent, surreal ordeal. She descends into ecstasy and self-torture, he into desperation and control as the woods around them become a hallucinatory hell of guilt and primordial rage. They look like people.
All that your enemies place in your way. Betrayal, lies, poison.
2 old friends, Wyatt and Christian, drift apart until Christian believes people around them are being replaced by evil creatures and insists Wyatt help stop an impending takeover. As Wyatt's skepticism gives way to unease, his world warps into paranoia, trust phrase, and the question becomes whether the threat is real or inside his mind. Martyr's Lane.
Please go. I don't want you here.
10-year-old Leah lives with her distant mother in a vicarage and finds nightly visitations from a mysterious girl who offers knowledge about grief, loss, and hidden truths in her household. As Leah pieces together these cryptic gifts and her mother's pain unfolds, the ghost story reveals both a child's perspective and a family's buried wounds. Bad taste.
Let's get in there and hit the leader.
In rural New Zealand, a fast food franchise from space descends, harvesting unsuspecting townsfolk as meat for its intergalactic menu. And a ragtag paramilitary team springs into gory, over-the-top action to stop them. It's a splatterfest of absurd proportions. Aliens, explosions, a mountain of blood, and a director who filmed it with friends, weekends, and boundless enthusiasm.